Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on Facebook and X. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on social media. Now we are joined by Neil, Righteous Force, Refracted Curvature, Original D-Rose, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Aussie.
Okay, hello. Well, it's good to have you all. 20 people watching immediately. Wow, that's a good start. Please share the show. All the regulars that are immediately here, keen and ready for us to do a live show and do some housekeeping. So, any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
I'm not with the elevation angle argument.
Not with it? What is it, a date?
Not really an argument either. So what's wrong with it?
Question. It's a question about how you would do celestial navigation, as on screen right now, right? You've got a sextant. Okay? Well, this is something that you level by way of pointing it at the horizon. And then you do your dip correction because you're above the surface that you're referencing as level. And then you measure your angle to the star so that you can figure out where, along a flat baseline, you are with respect to a circle of equal elevation drawn around the GP central point of that star. And you're on the outside edge of that circle that you draw. When you minus from 90 and times by 60, the angle that you are measuring from a flat baseline. That's the crux of celestial navigation. You do that 2 or 3 more times and you can figure out where you are. Okay, that's triangulation by way of a celestial acquisition of an angle to a star, usually a navigation star contained within the almanac. Okay, so we're all clear about what celestial navigation is. It starts with the acquisition of an angle off a flat baseline, and that line will run out to the GP of the star, flat. So the question in housekeeping is any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle, that's the measurement just described, from a curved baseline, where there's a curve moving out towards the GP of the star. Because that's not how celestial navigation works, but that's what would be necessitated if you're standing on a sphere, a curved baseline. So if you're standing on a sphere, I'll ask again, is there any evidence that you can acquire said elevation angle measurement from your curved Earth baseline?
See, that's where there is no argument, because even those that believe they live on a sphere use a baseline.
You
30
need 90
watching.
degrees.
Very
No.
warm. Very
Answer
warm welcome.
no.
Sorry, I'm talking over you. 30 watching already. Brilliant. It's going to be a good show. Please share the show. We're all in good fettle. We're all in good humour. Go ahead, whoever that was from Discord. I'm sorry to cut you off.
The zenith is going to be 90 degrees, so you need a flat baseline to get 90 degrees.
So that'll be a no. There's no evidence or acquisition
no
of
is the
a
answer. Yes.
curved Earth baseline. No, absolutely not. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No is the good answer. No is a good answer. You would need Venus. You would need the radius of Venus to be about the same size as Earth in order for, I don't know. That's what they say. It's 93 million miles away. But we don't know how far these strings are.
93
I'd
million
chop
miles.
that up. You
you'll
need a
need R.
radius of Earth, you need a radius of Venus, and you need to live in
Kepler's
math.
third law.
You
Kepler's
need,
third law. I'm helping you out. I'm saying Kepler's third law. Yes, you need Earth to be assumed to be a sphere. You need a radius value to be derived from dip angle measurements to a geometric horizon that no one can see. And then you need to impose that R value that's not acquirable below surface level after measuring an elevation angle measurement to a mountain, in the case of Alberuni, along a flat plane, onto Venus. So you've got R imposed on Venus to give you the scale from Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion. Then you can ascribe distances. But if you've only got the not actual sizes of things, you can only ascribe a scale, but without any distances. You need something to give you the scaling. And it's Venus in this instance, assumed by Christian Huygens to have the same radial value as Earth when assumed that Earth is also a sphere with the same radius value. So there we go. This came up sort of when someone was asking, why does the not actual size of the sun not change in not actual size as it moves from its not actual position? Although in a slightly less concise manner. That came up on the Refractive Philosophy channel. So I did leave a reasonably long comment when I did manage to get an hour today as I wasn't tuning PCs. I'm not going to mention that again. But yeah, I had time to actually sit and relax and watch something fun. So I watched a bit of a Refractive Philosophy channel. So subscribe today. I'm about to stick the link in Skype so I can bring it up for my own benefit. But I actually timestamped some points. Unless someone else has got a video that they did actually want to cover today. Is there something specific that anybody wanted to cover today?
I just want to address the Kepler.
Oh, two people at once. I had John first. Go ahead.
I just wanted to address Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion, as it's within orbits, which require a plane of reference to even derive that concept. So they're using a flat Earth twice just to get this distance.
That's correct. Yeah, back to the elevation angle argument. It's on screen now. This is your curved baseline for a curved Earth. Adam knocked this up. But yeah, this is how it's done. You draw out a straight baseline, measure the angle. The GP position would be representative of this point here, below the star. So you're measuring an angle in respect to how you see it from your perspective view. And its GP is the land it's directly above. And it draws a circle of equal elevation for you when you've got the distance. And the way you get the distance is take the angle, minus it from 90, that gives you your co-altitude, times by 60, that gives you the distance in nautical miles along this line. Yeah, so you can plot it on your map and draw a circle. Well, you're obviously, as you can see from this guy, somewhere on that circle. The whole point of doing this is you don't know where you are. Well, when you drew another angle out to a star over here, you'd then get a second circle. Now, if there's only 2 points on that circle that you can be where they overlap, and one of them happens to be in the land and one's in the sea, then you don't need a third circle, but you might need a third. In other words, you look at a star over here to get your third position. And once you've done it 3 times, you've got 3 circles. There's only going to be 1 point where they all converge, or I don't know what the word is, where they all overlap at the same point. And that's where you are on the map once you've plotted it. Well, this, in every instance, requires a flat baseline and 90 degree to the GP of the star. That's how it works. This can only work if Earth is flat. It's the basis for our GPS. It's the basis for our mapping. It's the basis for the charts when people take you on an aeroplane or on a boat. Earth's navigated flat. Measured flat. It's built on flat. Earth's flat.
Hello, Mike.
Hey, Owen. Your mic sounds a lot better
Hello.
today. You've obviously done something different.
Better?
Yeah, you were moaning in the comments. Why does my mic always sound garbage? And I'm like, I don't know. I just
Yeah, it's especially when other people are talking, though. It's almost like my mic is being deprioritized and it suddenly sounds like I'm talking out of a tin can or something. Very annoying.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know why that was, but it sounds great today. So, in any event, right, we're going to go to a few various different points in this video. If no one else has got any other points that they want to raise, and I'll just read out my comments that I went through as I've basically done my job for me today. So there we go. This is, as I say,
Colloidal suspension. It's really amazing, isn't it?
What's that?
Colloidal suspension. We had a whole discussion about that in the after show yesterday with Adam and QE about how mist and smoke, how it basically stays at a consistent microparticle size. It's like very colloidal sized water droplets.
Yes.
Like, how do they stay consistent the way they do?
I don't know, but just before I'm about to start into a video, I think it's perfect that you would reintroduce this brand new subject from yesterday, just as I was about to start plugging a video. That's wonderful. Thank you for that, Arwin. I don't know where to go with that now.
Hey, you asked.
Okay.
You asked.
Just
I'll stop it. But I did my show on that today, like the first half. So I'm very curious about this effect. But anyway, continue on.
I'll read out the super chat first. So shout out to James Richard. They simply assume Venus's radius. Then you use that assumption for distances. Somebody's off mute. Then use that assumption for distances. Does that sound like science? Not sure I would even call it math. Yeah, right on. It's definitely not science. It is just math, but it's math within a paradigm that doesn't exist. That they're assuming Kepler's orbital motion in that instance. But thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Also, there's a link whizzing by just above James Richard's super chat, as far as my chat's concerned. At least it might be below on yours. But with a link to refractive philosophy. So yeah, go and check it out. But there's going to be a few things we're going to comment on. I've got them timestamped, so this shouldn't take us too long.
In 1582, and before we got these watches on our hands and things like that, people looked to the sky to see when the days and the years and the signs and the seasons. And here in the northern hemisphere, the sun is up higher and longer. The moon is less time. They flip when it gets to winter, and you can actually look at the moon.
Oh yeah, I think my critique of this was just he's a flatty, and my critique was to say, Hemi, what now? Yeah, begging the question fallacy. Anyway, moving on.
No, not necessarily. As long as he's addressing the celestial sphere, that's fine.
He was, but no, he wasn't. I don't think. No, you'll see.
Nice fairy tale, and the rocket has no capability of ignition because there's no oxygen, and it has nothing to push off of whatsoever. So it has no propulsion forward. So I want to hear another explanation, because I've got a number of them from the people that believe in the fairy tale outer space, which is actually scientifically impossible.
Okay, so you get the gist of his question. He's asking his opponent, why do rockets have any place in our understanding when you can't have them pushing off nothing? I'll just read out what I put under that timestamp. How does a rocket push off nothing? End quote. Okay, meanwhile, outer space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Space is a second law of thermodynamics violation. To argue about what happens in space isn't worth it. Just debunk space. It's my critique. For this guy, Jim, yes, with as much love as I can offer, by the way. Much love. Good job, by the way. You did a good job, and I enjoyed watching this.
And let's do this.
Okay, hey dogs, I love how you can't explain things. You have to use pieces of paper and pencil. That's cool, man. That's cool. Hey dogs, can you actually make an argument without going to fourth grade level piece of paper? Can you do that for me?
Up to you. So this would
not
be
to me. Okay.
That's upside down. So this would be the sun moving across a globe Earth, okay? And this is the viewer. The viewer will track the sun as it moves around. Now, if the sun doesn't change in angular size, like this camera, the only way it can change the angular size would be to zoom in, and then you get different resolutions, right? So if it doesn't change in angular size, then it would have to go below the horizon in order to disappear. But on the flat Earth, you can have the sun here, and as it moves away from the viewer, it will change in angular size, because the distance between the viewer and the sun over here will necessarily be different.
Okay, I'll read out my comment, and then you guys can have at it in this regard if you want to. Where's my comment gone? Why does the not actual size, open brackets, apparent size, close brackets, of the sun not change as it moves throughout the day? Hello? Not actual size.
You combine that with the and you're rocking and rolling.
One more timer. Arwin's mic was open. One more time, John.
You combine that with an affirming the consequent, and you think you have a proof for a globe.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Arwin.
Which works perfectly fine down here.
Arwin?
Angular size. It does change angular size. That's
What's
not
that mean?
actual size.
It's not actual size, exactly.
My little Coca-Cola, which I've only had one sup of because it's not good for you. Second law of thermodynamics. We're told dogs that we have an open system. You can go up, 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 but we don't never see the rocket go up, 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 because the rocket goes up a little bit and then goes parallel to the Earth, and then we don't know where it goes from there. And so we just assume it goes to outer space because NASA would never lie to us, right? And so it goes up, 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 up until the 10 to the negative 17 of outer space, negative 10 toward outer space. And then, but you have pressure here on Earth. You have no pressure. And as my Coke can did, it wants to find its natural equilibrium, entropy, and all those things. And then what's funny, dogs, is that we're told that when you come back from your fairy tale outer space,
Dun dun dun.
So with that little
Oh, Nate.
critique, I was just going to say that you just need to stop. So what I've written is, boom, space is fake. Gas filled space, game over. In other words, he kept overselling it. He kept giving example after example. It's like you've used your Coke can as an example, fine. You've then pointed out that his fantasy of space is 10 to the minus 17 tour. Make the conclusion and stop. So space is fake. Gas filled space. That's it. And then leave him to roast or hold his toes to the fire in that regard. But he kind of kept going.
In cooling cycles. Now, there's a bias for all those gas particles. So those gas particles will have pressure in that there's motion with the gas particles as they're energized, and that motion will be translated into pressure, but that pressure is biased. So it can never, like, the particles will move, like, here's my tiny little particles. I'm not pinching nipples, tiny little particles, okay? And tiny little particles are energized, they're floating around, they hit each other, and one will move up away from the Earth, but then gravity will bias it back down. In the same way, and I'm going to get out my pen and paper again, if you get a billiards table and you chock the billiards table up on an angle, and then you get billiards balls that hit.
Okay, so gas go down, go boom, boom like billiard balls. Sound familiar? No. Gas expands in all directions, and it expands to fill the availability of volume that it has to fill, as detailed by yourself when you mentioned the second law of thermodynamics, right? So, number one, as stated, gas fills space, it's a law of nature. And number two, gravity's not a force, end quote, to contain gas. So that's George Musa, Scientific American, pointing out that no, there's no force of gravity to make gas come down like solid bonded billiard balls. Not at all. Anyway, that's all I've got on this. I just wanted to promote refractive philosophy more than anything else. So I'm going to share the link in the chat again. Please let Refractive Philosophy channel know that we think they're fantastic and subscribe to them immediately. Give them a thumbs up. Leave them a comment that says, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. As I say, there's a link whizzing by right now in the live stream chat. Did you enjoy that? Was that a good little thing for short 5 minutes?
What about clouds?
There we go. Did we come to a conclusion yesterday? I buggered off before it all went terribly sour. What's the conclusion? Have we got a conclusion?
I bet you nobody's going to be happy with it.
I don't care. I'm not going to be happy or sad. I'm quite intrigued to know how best to describe the visual phenomenon we describe as clouds, or cloud formation, I should say, as I've called it, phenomena. But yeah, I'd love to know what they are. I mean, I have asked many times why the sky is blue. Why are the clouds like they are? What are they? I don't know. Let's have a find out.
It would be microparticle colloidal suspension, as it is not a gas.
That sounded a lot like something an ether believer would say.
Yeah.
Possibly.
No, it was funny. Say that again, John.
Microparticle colloidal suspension, because clouds are not a gas.
Well, there it is. Who's not happy? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
It's an absolute outrage.
Well, you know, you could always say, if you're going to talk about the volume of a cloud, where's the container? But you're talking about microparticles. So you're not talking about the volume of the cloud. You're talking about the microparticles within it, which
Well,
are
but I could answer
denser.
your first question. I mean, for it to be forming clouds and condensing, it must be part of a contained pressurized system to begin with. So without that pressure in existence, you know, there's got to be a container of sorts for everything for that system to exist in the first place, for you to have that description of something that occurs within a pressurized system. Shout out to the Arc Ash for the super chat. Really appreciate your support.
But when ballers come here and bring up clouds as examples of gas pressure without a container, clouds are not gas.
No. Okay. What are they?
Tiny microparticles suspended in air that are more dense than the air they're suspended in.
Are they unbonded microparticles?
Of course, if they were bonded, then you'd have to consider the overall volume of the cloud, wouldn't you?
But if they're unbonded, then they're gas, aren't they?
No, there's inter and intramolecular bonds, right? They have formed intermolecular bonds, but not so much that they have attached to a particulate to bring them back down to the ground as rain.
So you're saying
the
that
hydrogen bonds.
they're connected together. The water has an intermolecular bond. That is to say that it has stopped being a gas and it's started being liquid or ice, but there's only a tiny amount, maybe one or two particles connected together. Is that what you're saying?
Right. It's not formed the hydrogen bonds that you need for like a lake. It's not a lake in the sky. It's microparticulate colloidal suspension. So it's tiny particles that are not connected.
Not connected.
So when right. So you can't invoke volume, because what do you need for volume? A container, right?
Yeah. Well, no, just to describe it, I'd need to know the volume of the amount of stuff within a certain volume to quantify it. But I'm saying, in terms of what's actually occurring, if they're unbonded and floating around, as far as I'm concerned, that's a gas right there. But you're saying no.
You think you can have volume without a container?
I didn't say that. I said to quantify it, I'd need the containment level. But I'm not trying to quantify it in terms of its amount of pressure on something or anything else of that nature. I'm just saying, in terms of what it is, if it's unbonded, if there's no intermolecular bond, then it's a gas, isn't it?
No, it has some intermolecular bonds. It hasn't formed the necessary hydrogen bonds to be rain, because it has no particulate matter to attach to.
No particulate matter to attach to.
Right.
But then
to help it form.
So you're saying what? It's a different temperature to. It's at a temperature that would facilitate it being liquid water, but it's still unbonded. That still sounds like a gas to me.
Oh, no. It's not a gas. Smoke is a good example.
No, that's just...
Is smoke a gas?
Smoke, nah. Okay.
Now, see, smoke, it displays the same thing as clouds, does it not?
Yeah.
Is smoke a gas?
No.
Neither is asbestos, as you gave it as an example, but...
Yes. So that's the end of that. It's not a gas.
Okay. I'm gonna have to wrap my head around this a bit more, maybe, to the purposes of almost nothing, because this is a folly. I mean, we're having this conversation because we point out when somebody asserts that the Earth rises up that we've got clouds. Now, beyond that obvious assertion, there's no further explanation required for what the clouds are, but it has developed into that discussion, which is interesting. It's an interesting folly, because we're not making any claims here, right? Just, you know, further to that, we're no bloody meteorologist society either, are we? Let's be honest.
Pseudoscience.
Meteorology? Yeah, pseudoscience is only pseudoscience if somebody's actually claiming it to be science. So if they say the science of meteorology, then yeah, they're not establishing cause and effect by way of hypothesis construction and variation of that which they assume causes the effect they're studying. They're making Nostradamus predictions, if you want to put it on the other end of the extreme, and often getting them wrong. But so long as they're not saying this is science, more often than not with the weather, they'll declare how non-science it is, on how they know it's, you know, it can be wrong. It's just, you know, it's their best guess and based on all these models and so forth. But I don't recall meteorologists claiming to be scientists. Maybe they do.
I'd like to see their resume. It's probably on there. If it's on their resume, then it's pseudoscience, right?
That's the sort of thing you would find that sort of bullshittery in, though, eh? Well, I'm out on top of the roof. I'm opening up this thing with a thermometer in, and it's very technical. So I'm a scientist now. Meteorological scientist. Maybe in movies, maybe in like Twister, maybe they call themselves scientists in that. When they're chasing down the whirlwind.
Well, they're definitely not empirical. I mean, the weather, just wait a moment and obviously it'll change. I don't know why we're talking about weather. I feel like I drug the whole conversation down now.
Not at all.
It's awful hot here.
The reason we're talking about weather is twofold. One, because in intentional terms, I put the housekeeping question with Coriolis in there. Or did I? Did I? No, I don't think I actually did. We just ended up talking about Earth rising up and the clouds overcoming that argument, which has led to weather. It was yesterday that we were talking about the Coriolis effect and being caught up in a hurricane, to be in the non-inertial turning reference frame of a hurricane, to see the tree that's rooted into the ground coming towards you and you going, oh no, the tree's coming to get me, when that's a not actual deflection of the tree as you spin round in a hurricane. But that's how you have Coriolis effect. So for it to be induced on a turning Earth, you've got to be on a turning Earth, seeing things drift away because you're turning beneath them. That's what Coriolis is. Obviously, we don't see that effect. Again, linked back to weather directly in terms of the discussion of the nature of the Earth that we live on. Weather's intrinsic to that. So, you know, it's not that you brought the tone down. We're not just being British and asking how the weather is.
Well, it wasn't really about weather. It was about gas behavior as it relates to the second law of thermodynamics and the claim that we're in an open system in a heliocentric universe. So it was related.
Exactly. It's gas pressure, and weather is just that, right? What is it other than a constant flowing example of the second law of thermodynamics?
Freely and randomly in all directions, right?
Right. But also showing the entropic effects within a dynamic system of high pressure flowing to low pressure. That's all the meteorologists report on for the most part. That's what will give you a lot of different weather systems, high pressure to low pressure. So
Definitely not science.
We'll have Tenth back next week to do some videos, so he'll be here more likely to suggest some videos than the one I've just done and rattled through in 5 minutes. I'm over concise, right? I wanted to get it done.
Well, I was thinking about, I'd found one for Quantum Eraser before about all the paradoxes of heliocentrism.
Okay. Can't be any.
Do you want me to go
perfect. It
find
always
and post
works.
it?
Sorry, John. Go ahead.
You want me to go find it and post it?
Sure.
It's about 12 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds good. Got a good audience. 83 people watching. Excellent stuff halfway through the show. I like it when we're edging up to 100 halfway through. Yeah, please share the show if you've not done so already. Obviously, a very warm welcome to all of you who are here. You've probably come because somebody who's in the show earlier shared the show with you. So please do the same. Smash that share button. But obviously, like I say, thank you for coming in the first place. We really appreciate you being here. Smash that super chat if you want to support this channel. There's also PayPal links in the info box below the video. I only have to e-beg because we receive such a lack of support from YouTube. We are algorithmically cobbled to the bottom of the lists, and our lunches are being eaten by the anti-flat earthers who you, the audience, are directed to if you are to search for this subject. Hence, we have to e-beg here, unfortunately. Not that I mind. We do get massive amounts of support from the people who directly give me funds so that I can stay doing this, because there's no sodding way I'm making a living out of the ad revenue. That ain't happening, and probably never will. But for the fact that I do get people supporting me financially directly, thank you very much for doing so. That spans directly from the people who share the show, which spans directly from the people who get here early and stick it out there on Facebook and X. So thank you for doing so. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Oh, it's in Master B is all I was saying.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, let's grab that. Oh, somebody's at my door. Can you talk amongst yourselves for 10 seconds? I'm here on my own at the moment, so I've got to go and get it.
Finding this, because this is the most concise one I could find, and it's still a bunch of ambiguous nonsense when they're trying to detail the paradox. So you'll have to forgive them, because they're pointing out things that contradict their worldview as they're doing it. So they ramble a bit through this.
Nobody there. Presumably somebody wanted my neighbour's attention and rang my bell instead. Anyway, right, okay, let's get into this. So this is from Factnomenal. Is that right? Am I saying that correctly? Let's see if I can find a share link. Go and let this person know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. There is going to be a link whizzing its way by in the live stream chat any second, so that you can click on that, go to his channel, say, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, we responded to your video, which has got 41,000 views and was published about a year ago, called Space Paradoxes. What did they find? Question mark. Dun, dun, dun. Now, hopefully John's given a preamble. I don't know, because I was away at the door.
Say goodbye to reality as you think you know it.
Go on.
I was just saying, they tend to ramble a bit, is what I said.
Oh, okay.
What you are about to learn will make you question the universe around you and if you even exist.
I'm not really. I know I exist.
Do you really believe you see what you see and know what you know?
I don't believe I see what I see and know what I know. I see what I see and know what I know.
Think again.
How dare you?
Welcome to Factnomenal. In today's video, we peel back the layers of reality and call into question our place in the universe and what you assume you know about space and time. Prepare for sleepless nights as you sort through these mind-bending paradoxes.
I don't know. Considering I'm not part of the heliocentric paradigm, I don't think any of these paradoxes will give me any sleepless nights at all. But there we go. Go on, whoever that was, on the mic, off the mic, whoever you were.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that all of these apply to his worldview. So you got to think, does he believe what he thinks he knows, or does he know what he thinks he believes? That's what he's trying to get at, is he don't even know what he knows.
Well, hopefully at the end we'll know what he knows and be able to decipher whether he knows what he knows or he doesn't know what he knows, but thinks he knows what he doesn't know in regards to these paradoxes. We'll see.
Well, that's right.
Is there only us? Our universe is full of life, right?
Well, no. I mean, that's a speculation that's come out of mathematics in terms of the probability of other life based on the heliocentric notion that you have an infinite expanding universe and the notion that there must be a probability of life. Therefore, slim though it may be, there must be, based on the slim probability that there isn't or is, life out within the heliocentric model. But we don't have a heliocentric universe. There is no space to travel to give you this mathematics that you'll be deriving this paradox from.
After all, it's many billions of years old. The solar system is relatively young.
Total nonsense. All of the assumptions of distance and time have come from Kepler's third law on scaling. You know, your redshift all slips into that, but those are just looking at light in the sky and then deciding how long the universe has lasted. Total nonsense.
And astronomy tells us there are...
Astronomy doesn't tell us anything. They're just looking at lights in the sky. I've already clarified that.
At least 100 billion planets in our Milky Way. And how many times does Hollywood show us the arrival of supermassive spacecraft bringing doom and gloom to all of us? So where are they? Nobel Prize-winning physicist Enrico Fermi asked this question in a casual lunch conversation in 1950, and Fermi's paradox has puzzled scientists ever since.
No, I don't know if it's puzzling scientists, because scientists would be the people who apply a methodology to establish the cause of effects they've observed in nature, as opposed to ponderance over Fermi's paradox.
SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute in California, explains that Fermi theorized a civilization with rocket technology and motivation could quickly colonize the entire galaxy. Within a few tens of millions of years, every star system could be brought under the wing of empire.
In the blink of an eye. All of these outrageous time claims have all come from the heliocentric model. At its heart, Kepler's scaling for interplanetary motion will give you all of these light years and distances. So, you know, it's all nonsense.
Tens of millions of years may sound like a long project, but in
Yeah, it would be. I mean, but like I say, the numbers been plucked out of thin air in regards to Kepler's third law.
fact, it's quite short compared to the age of the galaxy, which
I know how assumed the age would be of the galaxy within the heliocentric model in Kepler's law of interplanetary motion when applied with an assumption of Venus as having the same R value as an Earth that's spherical, when you can't measure either as being spherical.
which is roughly 1,000 times more. So, where are they?
Ads.
Astronomers use the Drake equation, which combines the number of stars hospitable to life-sustaining planets with other variables.
That's what I was plugging for. The Drake equation is where they get the idea that there's very limited chance of there being life out there, but based on the vastness of it, there must be some life. Therefore, they flip that on its head and say, well, there is therefore a probability of there being life. And this kind of crap was permeated more and more throughout the 60s. No, not necessarily 60s, 70s and 80s more than anything else.
That lead to civilizations transmitting signals across the Milky Way. As for the results, anywhere from one, us, to several million in the Milky Way alone.
Ah, what a broad scale. Shout out to Original D-Rose. I know you know that I know that you know what I believe I know what you believe, which is what I know you believe I know, but my brain hurts. Well, that's pretty easy to keep up with. I mean, I don't know what your malfunction is there, D-Rose. That was very easy to follow. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
And remember, some civilization must be the first one. Could that be us? As science fiction...
Actually, I'm going to stop there. He's asking a relatively interesting question, I think. If you ignore the space bollocks and just accept that we have discovered new worlds, they were on the map called New Worlds, when people went out towards the horizon, formerly known as space, and detailed in the old books of the 1800s and prior as being space. Space was out towards the horizon, new worlds were the continents we now know and love, but when they weren't in existence and then found, they were dubbed new worlds, because that's what new worlds were. But in terms of were we the first, I don't know if we'll be the last. For all we know, out in space, out towards the horizon, there may very well be, as we have already discovered and history has shown us, has already happened many times in our recent history, new worlds to be discovered. And there's a good chance that there'll be the orange people, as opposed to the green-coloured people, or the brown-coloured people, or the black-coloured people, or the yellow-coloured people, or the white-coloured people. Yeah, we'll go out and find some orange people. There's a reasonable chance of it. And we'll go, oh my God, the orange people, quick, enslave them. Or whatever we do when we find them. My point is that now it's all been locked down, well, you can't go anywhere. It's a ball. You just come back on yourself. Do you? Do you? So we all started going out thinking we're going to find certain continents, ballsing it up and finding a, quote, new world. But then suddenly, no, it's definitely a ball now, even though that's not how we navigate. And therefore, there's no point in finding any new worlds. Look to the sky for those. Drake equation, definitely likely. Shout out to James Mays, who says, good day all. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Good day, James Mays. So I have a very interesting speculation.
Go on.
Like within all of the movies that we've seen, like where, you know, there's a boundary, there's usually a fear that stops people from discovering what's on the other side. Perhaps what we're living in This time that we're living in is just some version of that, not necessarily a fear, but something that takes away the curiosity of others. Now, what if flat Earth is really being, slow leaked to the publics for this specific purpose? Because they've been cultivating the new land that we will travel to, but they wanted to gain control of it first before everyone was able to journey there and inhabit those places. What if that's the case?
I don't know.
Just saying. Just like we discovered new worlds, right? It's like, there was always a time, like in Christopher Columbus Day, when people thought, well, so my teacher told me, I don't really know this. Oh, if you go that way in that direction, you'll fall off the edge of the earth. That's what they were told. That was their fear. So they did not discover new worlds until they did.
Yeah.
So perhaps that's what's happening now. They have to get ahead of the narrative. They have to go ahead and, get everything ready for the section of, civilization to migrate into these new areas. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But anyway, I'll leave that with y'all.
Well, thank you for that. 88 watching, please share the show. Very warm welcome to all of you who just joined us. Please check out.
I would like.
Just before you do, please go and let this person know we're covering their video, and let them know by saying at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. There is a link going by in the chat. Go ahead, John.
I would like to point out this is a paradox. You believe you live on a sphere.
Icon Arthur C. Clarke famously proclaimed, "Either we are all alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying." A new meaning to being in the loop. Hand in hand with this puzzle is the bootstrap paradox.
Bootstrap paradox? This is a new one. Anybody know this one?
Named after a Robert A. Heinlein time travel story. A future event causes a past event which leads to that future.
Sorry, did you just say a future event causes a past event? That's bollocks.
Yes, he did.
That's just total nonsense straight off the cuff.
Future event. Got it?
No, we didn't. We stopped and critiqued it for being total nonsense.
In the Terminator movies, the conscious...
Sorry, is this paradox going to take place within James Cameron's fictional world of time-traveling robot cyborgs? Okie dokie!
AI global system of the future and instigate...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, no, it's going to take place in the idea that the stars you see are from the past, but you're seeing them in the present. Therefore, you are seeing into the past. Therefore, time travel.
Oh, I see.
Leader of humanity's downfall, Skynet, could not exist without leftover components of the T-800 cybernetic organism, who we know as Arnold Schwarzenegger, sent back to terminate John Connor. Its technology is reverse engineered, and Skynet and cyborgs and a long series of paradoxes.
Do we really need this lengthy summary of the Terminator movies?
Were born. As a result, an object or piece of information gets trapped in an infinite cause and effect loop.
No, you couldn't have that. Yeah, what they've done is they've taken the grandfather paradox and turned it into a positive assertion that it's a prerequisite requirement. It's like the entire universe's existence in the Terminator franchise only exists because of the arm. That arm in that movie is the arbiter of everything in the known existence of the universe. Because without that arm chopped off of the Terminator and then reverse engineered into the Terminator, the universe wouldn't exist. It is that simple. The arm is God in the Terminator movies. It's stupid, but that is a fact. Because it's essentially taking the grandfather paradox and inserting it as a plot point.
In other words, where's the point of origin?
There isn't one. It's part of the grandfather paradox originally spun.
Back to the future. Can we travel through time?
No.
Besides the universal tick-tock way each of us does every day? Einstein...
No, we don't tick-tock. No, you're halfway to a reification fallacy already, aren't you? The tick-tock would be the mechanism of a clock, and the clock would be a quantification of our convention for time.
Einstein's theory of special relativity said...
Oh, Einstein's fourth-dimensional space-time? No, we don't exist in a 4D described by Einstein as pseudo-geometry. It's pseudo. Fake, sham, not real. There is no fourth dimension.
Says yes, at least in one direction.
Well, that might be true in his maths. Meanwhile, in the three-dimensional Euclidean world I live in, there is no bent fourth-dimensional space-time affecting anything. Even if there was in the maths, it's not a force.
The genius himself once said, people like us who believe in physics know that...
You don't believe in physics. Physics is the study of the physical. There's no belief in physics. It's nonsensical to say, I believe in the physical. Oh, really? That's lovely for you. Me too. So what? Yeah, but it's just absurd, the statements that come out of Einstein's mouth half the time.
That the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion.
No, that's total nonsense. Yeah? Past? What do you mean past? Again, a convention I've used to describe that which is no longer taking place in simplistic terms. But there is no connection to my convention of the experience which once was and is no more. That isn't something that is connectable by a road or anything other than mathematics in a pseudo-dimension of 4D space-time invented by Einstein. So he's got to qualify it with clever words that make it seem like there's points in time. No, there isn't. There is no path for me to travel to my future. And the elapsed, the tick-tock, is merely our convention for what we describe as the passage of time.
Say hello
I would
to
like
the
to
mic.
point out again. I would like to point out again that this is only a paradox if you are a heliocentrist who believes that Einstein's mathematics describe reality.
Yeah, for us, it's just like, yeah, we don't have to accept pseudo-fake space-time bending and the problems that it has as paradoxes within time travel, because it's absurd.
Mind-blowing grandfather paradox. One travels back in time, say 200 years, and murders their many times great-grandfather.
Or chops off his arm when he's a robot.
This, of course, means generations of other ancestors never came to be.
This means that without the arm, there wouldn't be any robots. But without the robot, there wouldn't be an arm. So it's the same bloody paradox, right?
Does this prevent the time traveler's existence?
Yeah, it will in this example, but a minute ago it was the entire existence of the Terminator universe, wasn't it? Did you not notice that? Or clearly not.
And in that case, how would this relativistic killer have traveled back in the first place?
So, notice he's got an arm on screen. What, like a robot arm? Well, no, this one's human. But he doesn't recognise the irony in the arm being the main grandfather paradoxy point in the Terminator? Yeah? Hello?
If their birth was already erased. Time to reach for the aspirin. Quoth the raven nevermore. Imagine you are standing in a small grove of trees looking outwards, and you can see glimpses of sky from beyond the tree trunks. However, in the middle of a great forest, your sight is only of a solid wall of tree trunks, combining the near and distant in your vision. Shouldn't the universe be the same? After all, when we gaze into the three-dimensional cosmos, we are looking into septillions of stars.
What's he saying? If you're in the woods amongst the trees, basically you're a tree. And if we're in the cosmos with billions of stars, we're basically a star. Is that what he's suggesting?
And even though they are at varying distances, wouldn't...
Are they? No. Your Kepler's scaling assertions would give you their varying distances.
They all have light reaching us, creating a brilliant wall in the sky. Instead, the night sky is almost black, not bright red or glaring white hot. This Olbers paradox was first posed in 1610 by Johannes Kepler.
They're saying, no. You're saying an objection he raised to the assertions within the heliocentric model when comparing them to reality was that if all the stars are burning bright lights, then we just have a blanket of bright light in the dark sky that we actually experience, and we obviously don't. Okay? Again, like John's just pointed out, not a problem for me at all. as a flat earther.
Who suggests that the universe only extends out so far, thus the empty space and darkness. But it wasn't an astronomer who first hit on the truth, or what we think is the truth. It was a poet of all things. In 1848, American Gothic poet and writer Edgar Allan Poe surmised.
Why are we talking about poets? Why have you picked this? Is there something, we're only halfway through, John, but was there something specific that you're hoping we get to? Is it just all the random paradoxes stacked up on top of each other, one after the next?
It's just the random paradoxes of it. So
Fair enough.
how they've,
Fair enough.
we've solved them by being earthers.
The universe is simply not old enough to fill the sky with light. Not enough time for starlight from every corner of space to reach us. Building on Poe's idea, astronomers conclude that yes, while there may be an infinite number of stars beyond the cosmic horizon of the 13+ billion-year-old universe that would keep us bathed in light every night.
So they're making their assertions about their distances that they assume with Kepler himself, as mentioned a moment ago, in his laws of interplanetary motion, what would be paradoxically assumed to occur but does not, will be explained away as follows. It's like you're making apologetics for assumptions about systems that have got scales that you don't verify. So it's not a problem unless you say, we have verified these distances, and therefore, given that we have verified these distances, these movements shouldn't work. Therefore, a paradox. But if you haven't confirmed the distances in the first place, it's not a paradox. It just shows it's not working correctly.
There are too few observable stars to completely light
up. It's the stars' fault. There's not enough of them.
The sky.
Yeah, it's all their fault, really.
So a poet stumbled across the likely answer. Maybe we should dig up Shakespeare and ask him about Fermi or inflation theory, or...
Yeah, I'm with you. Why are we talking about Edgar Allan Poe?
Black holes.
Ever cringe at those tricky game ads?
Yeah, because it takes poets to really critique the heliocentric system and be taken seriously.
Speaking of digging folks up, a lovely variation of the aforementioned grandfather paradox is the classic, why don't we go back in time and terminate Hitler paradox.
We can't travel along a pseudo-Riemannian force-based time dimension. Time's our convention that we developed so we could discuss what we call the passage of time. But to reify it out into some path that we can travel backwards or forwards along is absolutely absurd.
Or maybe some middle school bully, but let's stick with Hitler for now. It's such a popular idea that the phrase, everyone kills Hitler on their first trip, has become a meme. So how about jumping into a DeLorean or blue police box and doing humanity a giant favor?
There are no DeLoreans, and there are no time-traveling time telephone boxes, like in Doctor Who. These things are that of fantasy. Now, we appreciate that you have also got a pseudo-Riemannian space-time dimension given to you by Einstein, but that's pseudo. It's just a geometry. It's not our reality. You don't need to concern yourself with any of this garbage.
Not so fast. If you transport back and whack baby Hitler...
Sorry, if you transport back... No, you can't. You can't transport back or forward. You just travel. You don't travel at all. If you experience the elapse of what we call time, that's not a journey.
You've now created a world where Hitler never rises to power, and World War II does not happen.
And the Terminator arm wouldn't be there.
That's a good thing, right?
Well, there'd be no Terminator arm.
Yes, but in the process, you've removed the future motivation to transport back and whack baby Hitler.
So you removed the Terminator's arm for it to not be in existence when you killed the Terminator, so his arm didn't exist for it to exist for him to come back and try and kill you. Sounds like the same paradox to me.
So another paradox.
Yeah, same paradox. Just you've given it out 3 times.
And of course, there's always the possibility that by interfering with the previous course of history...
No, you're never going to interfere with any previous course of anything historical. You can't. That's never going to happen.
You may unleash something worse.
No, you're not going to. You're not going to unleash anything. Fear-based mind control propaganda peddler. It's not going to cause anything because you're not traveling back in time.
In Hitler's case, that's highly unlikely, right?
No. It's, regardless of whether or not you accept the narrative of Hitler, never going to happen because you can't travel through time.
When is a black hole not a black hole?
When someone says it's a black hole, ascribes a detailed description without ascribing any scientific validity to that description, and then someone else comes along and says no, and then through the exact same methodology ascribes their bullshit story to it, which doesn't comport with the original story, which was also bullshit about what a black hole was.
Einstein's general theory of relativity says a black
Not a real theory, it's not scientific.
hole's gravitation is so intense that...
Intense? I thought it wasn't a force. It's a bent geodesic in space-time. How can it be intense?
nothing can escape it.
Escape from a non-force? I don't think I ever will be fighting against a non-force. Non-forces don't contain me, restrain me, or need me to escape from them.
Now, let's define information.
Why? Shouldn't we define what a force is?
For the physicist, information is the specific state of every particle in the universe.
Is it?
Every little detail. And the first law of thermodynamics says matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed, and the sum total of matter and energy in the universe is a constant. Well, what happens to matter? Information consumed by black holes.
Sorry, where did you get the information or the black hole or anything from in the first place if energy cannot be created by nature itself? If nature's not creating itself and your black holes come out of a paradigm that has within it the very birth of that existence from nature, that would be to say the Big Bang, then I would want to know why we even have said claim to be your description of this claim to be black hole, not actually a CGI representation of it. But nevertheless, I'd want to know how that even started in its existence, given that we're going to be violating that first law of thermodynamics when we describe the Big Bang as the starting point for this nonsense.
That is the black hole information paradox. If there's ever a bright blinking light to remind us just how little we really understand about the universe, this might be it. In 1975, physicist Stephen Hawking theorized black holes in time will evaporate away and release their mass and energy back into the cosmos.
So, theorized? By theorized, you mean he literally pulled it out of his asshole? That's what you mean. Because that's precisely what he did. Yeah? He spits this nonsense out of his word machine, and people think that that's what it now is. No. His mere speculation about what he thinks it could be. All right. This isn't science. This is the ramblings of a disabled man with a voice box.
Cosmologists believe the quantum information for everything that went into the...
Believe? No. Quantum mechanics has scientific validity established within it. So, no, our entire technological advancement throughout the 20th and 21st century has come from quantum mechanics.
Black hole was preserved on its surface, even as the matter was doomed. So where does that information go when the...
What is this nonsense? Incorporating the words of quantum mechanics into the notions and speculations / theory, yeah, right, from Hawking's. You having me on?
Black hole evaporates. Where did that bottle of aspirin go? Mind officially blown.
Not for me, just bullshit officially exposed.
Paradoxes may have no solution or be only explainable by theoretical propositions.
You debunk the heart and foundation that the paradox is based within, and you ultimately undo the paradox, because then it's not a paradox anymore. Right, John?
Yeah, well, the point of a paradox is that they don't exist.
Yeah.
But that is right. We solved the paradox by becoming flat earthers.
Yeah. What would happen if you could go back in time? Because you can travel along a bent geodesic through space-time that's been bent back on itself, so that you can travel along a timeline that takes you to prior to Hitler's existence. And then you can live up to his birth and then execute him in the same way Terminator would try to go and get John Connor. Okay. The paradox being that you would wipe yourself out of existence because there wouldn't be the baby boom. So what are you going to do now? I'm going to point out that you can't travel back in time. There are no bent geodesics in space-time. There is no fourth dimension. Einstein made the whole thing up. Therefore, there's no paradox here.
And Nathan, I can add something to that. it's impossible to erase yourself because you would have to be there in order to erase yourself. So it's not just, oh, because a paradox you stop existing. No, you would never be able to do that because it requires you in order to undo you. So it's
what I think we should
literally
do
not possible.
to test this is you should chase me along a series of mechanical devices, and then I'll crush you in a hydraulic press, and you can reach out to grab me when I do, and we'll chop off your arm, put it into a cabinet, and then resurrect you in about 30 or 40 years into a biomechanical killing machine.
Okay.
Only seems reasonable.
That can never be subjected to the scientific method.
What's that? What, like cause and effect? Varying manipulating that which you assume causes an effect by way of systematic experimentation based on that hypothesis. You wouldn't know what the scientific method is. You're just peppering it in there to make it seem like your paradoxes are going to be less validated, but still paradoxical. Now, we undo the heart of these nonsensical paradoxes, not point out that they're not going to comport with the scientific method.
Perhaps time
the
travel
thing about conceptual paradoxes is that they're just concepts, because paradoxes can only be conceptual. They can never be real. What do they point at? That something, the entire premise, has been wrong. That's why you bump into a paradox.
It's like the She-Ra paradox. When you appreciate that you cannot touch a unicorn, and yet She-Ra's riding around on one the whole time, it's a paradox, isn't it? Because obviously she can touch the unicorn she's riding one and it's talking to her. But yet you can't touch unicorns. So how does that work? Yeah, you've got two choices. Try and wrap your head around it. Go and get yourself some aspirin because of the She-Ra unicorn paradox. Or point out that unicorns and She-Ra aren't real. Therefore not really a big problem. In fact, not a problem at all. You can have She-Ra ride a unicorn. You can have her breed with one of those Zargon lords and produce a unicorn if you fucking want to.
It's forever relegated to science fiction and aliens only exist in Hollywood.
To produce unicorns.
As physicist Stephen Hawking said, the best evidence we have that time travel is not possible and never will be
actually what
is
he
that
said
we
was,
have not been in...
The best evidence that time travel is... That's what he actually said.
...invaded by hordes of tourists from the future. After all, wouldn't a future Bill and Ted have come here from 1,000 years down the road by now for another excellent adventure?
Well, like Bill and Ted in a phone box.
Wow. That's your example for time travel? That's your go-to?
Yeah. Outrageous.
So, what do you think about these sleepless night-inducing paradoxes?
None of them cause me any sleepless nights. But we frequently point out how our opponents will lose sleep over this kind of crap when we point it out. It's interesting that you're on their side, pointing out and asking people on your own side how they cope with these paradoxes, because they aren't. And that's what we do. So we don't lose any sleep. It's interesting, that, isn't it? Good call, John. Good video.
Did that get us through the live show? I can't see the time.
We're about 5 minutes over the typical live stream time, so that's a pretty good time, I would say. I'm sure you've all got some comments.
Let's just move on.
Okay, thanks for that, Arwin. That's very informative.
Now, I want to say real quick, I like what Eli said earlier about the mind prepping everybody's mind, because there might be some future conquests to go beyond the horizon and seek other lands, and they just kind of juicing everybody up for this bull crap. Because I was talking about somebody about that before. Because now we don't have to use ships; we can use aircrafts now, and dumb people who think they're going up in a way to a floating rock are actually just going beyond, traveling beyond, outside, further out, and may seek some other land, and they would pretty much eat up anything that whoever's the head chief navigator or captain of the vessel and whatever governmental agency that's pushing it, whether it be SpaceX or whatever, and they would fall for it and say, oh, we're now here at such and such a planet, and they would be so dumb enough to believe that, oh, we have oxygen and vegetation, yada, yada, yada. And that's probably what they're doing now, because they know that the flat earth truth is just inevitable. It's going to be swamping everywhere. So they just try to keep propagating, pushing this propagation. So if they do this voyage to see other lands, they can have people brainwashed that it's a space travel.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hit me up on PayPal and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!